Well, hello, welcome back to another edition of I Care for Your Brain with board-certified neuropsychologist Dr. Karen Sullivan. Tonight is not a bite size. Tonight is a full-length feature because we have a very exciting announcement. After 5 years, we are finally giving in to fan pressure to recommend actual products. I cannot tell you how many emails and messages we get that say things like, well, what supplement would you recommend? What brain healthy food would you recommend? What books would you recommend? And I just have never really gotten into that before, but we're always trying to do different things to serve the unmet needs of the brain health community. So we are announcing a new page on our website today, which is www.icfyb.com, which stands for icareforyourbrain.com/picks. And that link is right here. Every month, I'm going to be featuring a new area of life that affects the brain health community, and I'm going to give you my very well-researched, highly critiqued, science-based, when available, product recommendations. So I have either used these products myself. When I was making this list, I literally went through my Amazon cart from all of last year and what we've gone through in 2023. And these are products I have either purchased for myself or have made personal recommendations to not only my patients, but family and friends. So when you see any of these links on that webpage, we are receiving a commission. And what that means is this is a new way for us to do two good things at one time. One is it's an opportunity for us to raise money for the brain health community. And every quarter we are going to be donating a portion of the proceeds to the Neurological Alliance in the UK. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that at the end. We're also going to use it to pay for our overhead. As we have grown, we are 60,000 learners strong on YouTube. We actually have more and more things that we need to pay for monthly to keep providing you with free science-based brain health information. And so to keep doing that, we've actually been picking up the pace, you might have noticed. So it just requires some funds for us to be able to continue to do this. So you're kind of getting a 2-for-1 when you purchase any of these products through our website. So tonight, the very first topic is going to be sleep. And I'm going to give you my top 5 recommendations for sleep health products. So the first step is education, and you've been doing that this whole time if you've been following me. I have several lectures, especially the last month. I've focused on how sleep changes with age and the brain science of melatonin. One of the most important learning points that I hope you've gotten so far is the critical importance of staying in continuous sleep. So you go through the 5 cycles from full alertness to full deep sleep multiple times throughout the night. And what we really try to protect for brain health in particular, which remember, brain health is also mental health, is the deep sleep, including REM. And there's really 3 massive benefits for brain health. The first one is the deep cleaning, the restoration processes that happen during sleep. These are critical when you have had any type of brain health challenge. So it's the ability of our immune system and our cerebral spinal fluid to wash over our brain and clean out the things that no longer serve us. We also, number 2, is memory formation. We sleep to remember and we sleep to forget. If we remembered every single thing that happened to us throughout the day, we would be kind of unsightly. Our brains would be much too big. And the third super important thing is emotional processing. During deep sleep, we are integrating traumatic experiences, traumatic daily events into our life story. We have to try to bring those 2 parts of our autobiography together. So one logical question I would have after understanding the importance of the sleep cycle and deep sleep is, well, how much deep sleep do I actually need? And this is actually highly personal. And you're going to hear me talk about 2 themes in this lecture tonight. And that is coming at sleep from a subjective and an objective point of view. And that is because we need both of these. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is look for a pattern. We don't want to overinterpret one bad night's sleep. We're actually looking for the pattern over at least 7, if not 14 days. So subjective means, how do you actually feel? This is something nobody else can really quantify. Do you feel refreshed after you wake up? Do you feel refreshed throughout the day? Are you ready to do as much mental and physical work as you choose to do within a given day? Specifically, how aligned is your energy with your values? That is the key question here. Are you able to do what you want in a given day? Only you can answer that. We also need the objective. So this is where data collection comes in. The average adult, if we look at the research, needs about 1.5 to 2 hours every night of deep sleep. Deep sleep should make up about 25% of your total sleeping time. That percentage is much higher for babies and much lower for adults once we get over the age of 65, but there's a lot of individual variability, and some people just seem to get a lot out of a short time of sleeping, and other people need like 9 hours to feel refreshed, so it's very, very personal. As we age, as you might have remembered from my last lecture, the sleep cycle really shifts and we fall asleep a little earlier and we wake up a little bit earlier. And this is mostly due to the decline in melatonin production. So as we get older, we make less melatonin and we get less deep sleep. Now, some researchers feel that this drop in melatonin is really the cause of aging, the cause of a lot of age-related conditions, including dementia. So I want you to start to think like a brain scientist, and you're going to try to actually look for a correlation between the subjective and the objective. And that's really how a neuropsychologist does it. We take in what our patients tell us, we use standardized cognitive assessments, and we're really trying to find a place where those two come together, because that's really where the truth is. After you've educated yourself, you're now ready to take your personal sleep challenges one more level. You can start to get a little bit more serious about the personalized nature of your sleep. So you've kind of got the general, but again, I want you to use this data-driven approach for both subjective and objective. So your subjective, you're going to start with just a paper and pencil journal. We've actually created one that you're able to get for free. We're going to have this in the links. And this is a great place to start tracking your subjective experience. So how many hours of sleep you feel like you're getting, how you feel when you're waking up, what are the quality and the quantity of any naps that you take during the day. But you're actually going to need an objective measure too, and this is where our first product comes in. So this is a sleep tracker. Some people call this a sleep watch. This is probably about as techy as I ever get with my recommendations to my patients. So this is actually going to give you the real number of how many minutes it takes you to fall asleep, how many times you wake up in the night, how many minutes it takes you to fall back asleep, and most important, how many minutes in light sleep and in deep sleep. And what I promise you is there will probably be a discrepancy between your subjective and your objective, and there will also be points of connection. So it's really like a puzzle that you need to put together. So we're gonna get into our recommendations now. So after you have acknowledged you have a sleep problem, you're not feeling as refreshed as you would like to, you're gonna be really, really motivated to start to collect this data, right? So there's many sleep trackers that are on the market, and oh my gosh, they really range in price. So what I wanted to do was give 3 different options, one for the person super concerned about budget, one for most of us in the middle, and then kind of a super luxurious one. So these can either be in a wristband, on a ring, you can put something under your mattress, but they basically all work the same, where they are linked to an app on a smartphone, and they vary in terms of what variables they track, their sensitivity, their bells and whistles. For budget friendly, there is one on the market that is under $20. So this is called the Inger Wall, and it's not the most sensitive one, but if you're on a fixed income, it's certainly better than trying to figure it out on your own, because when you're sleepy, you're not the best informant, you're not the best rememberer. It has an activity tracker that will break down deep sleep and light sleep for you and awakening. One of the limitations is it only tracks for 7 days. Now the problem is that then you can't get, that 2-week, 3-week observation viewpoint, but all you need to do is really just manually transfer that to your sleep journal and you would have it. So I don't think that's that big of a barrier. It also has alarm clocks that can give you a gentle vibration to wake up, so not kind of jolting you out of deep sleep. And it also has 2 things I thought were really clever. One is a sedentary reminder and a water reminder. So vibrating just to remind you to move your body, to drink water, which are also 2 really good brain health recommendations. So the best fit is really the average priced one right in the middle. Fitbit is consistently rated as the highest. I definitely think it's worth the $100 investment if you have the money. Very high ratings in customer satisfaction, and gives you not only everything I talked about a minute ago, but a daily sleep score. And what I really like about this is it really starts to have you think about setting goals and then working towards those goals in a systematic way. So there's a lot of different versions of Fitbit. That'll be the first thing you notice if you go on Amazon. But I am linking to one very specifically called the Fitbit Charge 5 Advanced Health and Fitness Tracker. It comes with a 6-month premium membership, and in my experience, all you really need is 6 months, because once you kind of figure out your groove and you figure out at what time are you getting your best REM, you understand your sleep cycle, you pretty much learn what you're going to learn. And in 6 months, you're able to do all these other recommendations. So you really should have your sleep nailed down by the end of 6 months. So I don't really see the need to continue with the membership. I think the one that comes free is actually just perfect. And then the high-end recommendation is a ring. It's called the Fittinger Health Ring. It's $249, but this is really only good for those of you who want to go well beyond sleep, people who are really, really wanting to make an investment in their health and look at all sorts of measures of cardiovascular health and fitness. But it has some amazing sleep tracking capabilities. So if you're really wanting to just think about using more of a data-driven approach for your overall health, I would say that that more expensive one works the best. So now you've collected your data and you should have targets and goals. So you should know exactly, you take too long to fall asleep, you wake up too many times, you wake up too early, or you're not getting enough REM sleep. That's probably going to be most people's complaint, because it's got the most significant correlation to the level of alertness that we feel, our ability to make consistently good memories throughout the day, and our ability to just kind of be steady and have a stable mood. The next step is going to be sleep hygiene. This is all the common sense yet science-based things that you should just be doing in terms of behavior and environment. So I'm going to just go through these briefly. First one is really trying to stick to a routine. You don't want to have a drastically different bedtime during the week than you do on the weekends. You're trying to get up within about 15 to 30 minutes. Should basically be your 2 windows of opportunity for going to sleep and for waking up. You should definitely be exposing your pretty face to bright morning sunlight without the use of a hat or sunglasses for at least 15 minutes. What we're actually aiming for is to get bright sunlight into the retina to start stimulating cortisol and reducing melatonin, so our circadian rhythm is normalized. We want to reduce the exposure to strong light sources at least 2 hours before bed. So not only is this the sun, but most specifically devices. We want to lower that temperature in our bedroom by about 2 to 3 degrees. We want to try to keep our bed for sleeping and intimacy only, because we want our brain to not associate it with eating, with watching TV, with having stressful phone conversations. You're really trying to create a sanctuary. You also need to develop a pre-sleep ritual where you stop taking in input and you actually start to give your brain the message that you need to come down and down and down. Sleep is very interesting in the sense that you can't force it. You actually have to kind of allow it or welcome it. And it really is a process of overtaking us. And that can be stressful, especially when there's any history of trauma or emotional health struggles. It can start to get really complicated. So you have to give your brain every fighting chance to be able to slip into that sleep. So after you try sleep hygiene, if that does not work, I'm now going to give you my next 3 product recommendations. The next one is a sleep mask. And I actually have my favorite one right here. Ambient light absolutely influences the timing of our sleep and the structure of our sleep. It disrupts sleep cycles, specifically related to early morning awakening, and we get less deep sleep. I was recently in Iceland for a few days for a vacation, and the sun there goes down around 1 a.m. and comes up around 3 a.m. And my sleep cycle, even with blackout shades in the hotel, was awful. And I forgot my sleep mask, and it really threw me for a couple, I don't know, maybe 2 whole weeks, because I just was so off schedule. So I'm always wanting to know, what is the verifiable science behind any recommendation that I make? So I want to tell you about 2 experiments that are related to the sleep mask. And this just came out in March 2023. So what they looked at is how effective was an eye mask that blocked light overnight in terms of memory, alertness, and sleep architecture. So in experiment 1, 94 people wore an eye mask while they slept every night for 1 week on, and then took it off for a week. And objectively, what they found was that cognitive testing during the time they wore the eye mask was superior in terms of verbal learning, so the ability to make a new memory from information. The subjective benefit was that people reported being more alert when using the mask. They then took 35 additional people, and now they added a sleep tracker because they wanted to see, well, what can we see about actual brain waves while people are wearing a sleep mask? And what they found was that people's report of alertness was highly correlated with slow wave deep sleep. And again, that's one of those points where the subjective and the objective come together really, really nice. So I think there's enough data out there to suggest that wearing an eye mask is effective. It's super affordable. It's a non-invasive, very no-risk way to improve the sleep quality that you get every night, which then leads to a benefit in attention and in memory. So we see measurable impact. So the brand that I have really been loving is Manta, and they actually have many. Oh, I have to let my cat out of this room. Hold on 1 second. Honestly, cats. Okay, so there's 2 types of masks that Manta makes that I really, really, really like. I wear either one or both, one of the 2 every single night. So the first one, which I have right here, this is called the 100% light blocking eye mask. And its trademark is really something they call zero eye pressure. So what I love about it so much is it's got these molded adjustable eye cups that basically surround your eyes in this lifted way. So even if I open my eyes and I blink, I still cannot feel the sleep mask. And that is really important because sometimes, like if you're in a light sleep and you open your eyes just a little bit, then you're letting in a lot of light. And it's all of a sudden, light gives your brain basically the message to pump out cortisol because you should be going into action and to suppress melatonin production. So blacking out your room is really important. But remember what I just told you a minute ago about Iceland. Even with blackout shades, I still could sense and feel and see that it was very, very light outside and it was super disruptive. So when you wear this mask, it is truly 100% blackout. So even when I try to do a nap during the day, I wear the mask because I've noticed I can get a lot more benefit out of a much shorter nap, and I'm convinced it's because of the blackout. The other one I wanted to tell you about, because it's super helpful for headaches and eye fatigue, which goes hand in hand with brain health challenges, is they have another one called the cool mask, so the blackout cooling eye mask. So zero eye pressure. You can actually, I keep these things in the refrigerator or the freezer, and if there's ever any time, like when my daughter has allergies, or not only when I wake up and look like heck because I've been working all night and I'm all puffy, they're good for the kind of beauty intervention, but really they're most helpful if I just been at the computer too long or if I have a headache. So you basically take these and slip them into the little pocket of the regular eye mask, and it's incredible. It's so comforting. So super comfortable, adjustable strap, and they come with free earplugs. So it's really like a full sensory package. So each one of these is like $40, but you'll never have to buy a second one. It really does last forever. So I'm going to have links to those 2 on that icfyb.com picks page that you're going to go check out. The next product, okay, this is number 3. This is a weighted blanket. This is another science-based intervention. So people swear by weighted blankets and they say, I am less anxious. It calms my nervous system. It allows me to go into a deeper sleep. And of course, scientists want to know, what does the objective sleep science have to say? We know the subjective is there. So what we're really interested in is, what is the neurochemical backdrop of sleep doing during the experience of a weighted blanket. So I went and did a little research for us, and there's not much out there, but I thought this one study was of good enough to quality to share. 26 research participants used a weighted blanket at bedtime and had their melatonin and their oxytocin tracked with concentrations of these in their saliva. They were also asked how sleepy they felt when they woke up and tracked how many hours and minutes they slept. So when the people who were in the experimental group using the weighted blanket used it all night long, they had 1 extra hour of sleep quantity. And what is most important to me is they made 32% more endogenous natural melatonin all by themselves. So the key with a weighted blanket is it really is determined by your weight. So there's a very clear algorithm I'm going to give you in a minute. You have to think about the breathability of the fabric, because it can get super hot under a weighted blanket. And really important is what is the material inside that is weighing it down. So the ones that I like is through a brand called L''Agraty, so La Agrati. And I really like it the most because the fabric and the non-toxic hypoallergenic glass beads that come in it. I want glass beads. I don't want some of the other stuff I've seen in other weighted blankets. So how do you know what weight to get? Well, it's all about your body weight. So if you're under 130 pounds, you should get a 15 pounder. And if you're over 130, you should get a 20 pounder. So we have links to both of these specific brands that I recommend. I have bought more of these blankets than I can possibly remember. I had 6 in my cart from 2022. So these are gifts I've given family and friends. I've actually bought a few for a couple people professionally that I know who I knew would really benefit from it. And again, kind of a once in a lifetime purchase. You're not really going to have to ever buy a second weighted blanket. So typically $30 to $40. This is really, really helpful when someone is coming out of any type of traumatic experience, being in the hospital being one, having a seizure, a migraine headache, anniversary of a traumatic event emotionally. It's just a very, very comforting and soothing thing to do for your central nervous system. Now, number 4, this is the biggie. This is the one that, boy, I have been asked about for so long. And it is what melatonin supplement would I recommend. So we have talked about in the last lecture, the brain science of melatonin, that my conclusion is that it is effective for both quantity of sleep and sleep quality. And I told you where it really shines is when you compare it to what most people do for over-the-counter sleep aid, which is the not so great stuff at all that has high antihistamines in it, which gives it what we call a high anticholinergic property. This is basically anything with a PM or an antihistamine. There's a very popular name brand, but I'm not going to say it, that is added to a lot of the sleep aids. And basically it's what makes you sleepy. But unfortunately, being anticholinergic, it is taking acetylcholine, choline out of the brain, which is an essential molecule for learning and memory. So over time, when people use those over-the-counter sleep aids, every night it is dramatically increasing their risk of cognitive impairment and dementia, especially if they're using other medications that also have an anticholinergic property. So melatonin, hands down, is my recommendation of choice for after sleep hygiene doesn't work, what you want to do next. So you've tried the mask, you've tried the weighted blanket. Okay, where do we go to next? Now, the first thing I think is going to surprise you is my dosage recommendation. So more is not better, especially if you're over the age of 55. So in a meta-analysis, which is a really powerful way of grouping high quality studies to get enough power to really have the best insights into a scientific question, they looked at a range of melatonin doses for folks that were 55 to 77. And what they found is that the melatonin levels remained higher in older adults when compared to younger folks and stayed higher for a longer period of time. So basically, as we've talked about before, with almost all compounds as we age, we metabolize and hold on to chemicals longer. So a little bit has a higher potency. So what we see with people who take higher doses is increased daytime drowsiness, which is really the very thing you're actually trying to to treat. So the more melatonin the older person took in the study, the more pronounced their sleepiness or their side effects were, which included headaches and nightmares. So as a result, what a lot of researchers do who are interested in older adults is to recommend that folks start with the lowest possible dose. Now, what is hard is to find the lowest possible dose. And so what I'm going to recommend to you is extremely low, much lower than you probably see when you go to the regular drugstore. And it is 0.5 milligrams. That is what I have right here. So too high of a dose does the opposite. So not only do you feel bad and drowsy, but your circadian rhythms are totally messed up and you're not going through in a seamless, flowing way those 5 sleep cycles. So what we're really trying to do with supplementation is simply mimic what a healthy younger person makes, which is less than 100 micrograms. So when you start to look at melatonin doses that are 20, 30 milligrams, this is so off the charts high. It is so beyond what any reasonable person who understands melatonin would ever expect you to take in a safe and effective way. So there are 1,000 micrograms in a milligram. So that is where we get to the lowest possible dose. So at the conclusion of a meta-analysis from 2014, what they advised, this group of sleep experts said it is the lowest possible dose of immediate release formulation that people should take to best mimic the normal circadian rhythm. So you can get melatonin in a lot of different types of formulation, and you might think, well, I want the one that is plant-based or is nature-based. Well, nature-based typically means they get it from an animal, most commonly a cow. I actually think the synthetic version is a lot more dependable, and I'll tell you why. So the dosing tends to be much more precise, and interestingly, it's actually more bioavailable, more absorbable. So what you want to do is take it 30 to 60 minutes before bed, and the goal is to really use it in the short term. So try it for 4 weeks if you're just using it for sleep. Some people do choose to use it for all of those aging effects that I mentioned before. So with dietary supplements, we want to be cautious, informed consumers, right? So they're not subject to the same quality control or regulatory scrutiny as prescription medicine, and that goes for safety and for efficacy. So supplements do not officially treat, cure, prevent any type of disease. That is a big part of what you can't say. But there are ways to ensure that you're getting supplements that actually follow and respect the scientific method. And so one of the most important things is third-party objective testing. So the reason this is so important as it relates to melatonin is because of the poor quality control. So I'm going to tell you some specific data related to this. So there was a study that looked at 31 different pill supplements of melatonin and actually found, this is unbelievable, that in the product there was a 478% over or under what the labeled dose was. So 400% more or less than what actually was said on the bottle, which is just absolutely incredible. They also then went on to look at 25 different gummy brands of melatonin, and 22 out of the 25 were mislabeled in terms of dosage. 90% did not contain the amount of melatonin they said, and one of them actually contained 31.3 milligrams of CBD, but no detectable melatonin at all. So this makes third-party verification a must. So in my recommendation of this brand right here, this is unprecedented because my standards, me and supplements have kind of a long, windy road together with scrutiny and concern. But I myself have been exploring this with a functional medicine nurse over the last few months due to some health conditions of my own. And in conversation with her and her introducing me to this brand, I really began to appreciate that there are some companies who are really trying to do supplements at a much higher quality level. So I needed to make sure that there was, of course, a third party analysis that was being done, so kind of a double-blind placebo approach. I wanted to make sure they offered very low doses, because often one of my criticisms is they go much too high. We are always trying to mimic natural biology. A lot of them do not have a full disclosure list, so the ingredient list is incomplete, which then makes you worry about active contaminants, which many people have gluten allergies, corn allergies, all sorts of stuff, GMOs, the fillers, the preservatives, all that. I definitely wanted it to be manufactured, created in the United States, and also come with the support of a registered dietitian. So if someone had questions, they could actually get in touch with a clinician. My final request in my search was that the company be driven by more than profits and try to contribute to the community and really think about sustainability with their packages. So the company that I have been so happy to find is called Pure Encapsulations, because they did meet every single criteria that I had. So when you go on our Picks webpage, you are gonna see a link there to the 0.5 milligrams of melatonin, and it is super hard to find. I don't think that any other company that I know makes it like that. So the long-term effects of melatonin, especially in older adults, we haven't had enough time of using it. It's a pretty recently popular supplement, but we know that there's very little risk of dependency or withdrawals. The biggest adverse events seem to be when people talk about more vivid dreams, especially nightmares, and that is because they're getting too much REM. So even though we talk a lot about not getting enough, there actually is a problem with if you immediately go into REM, that's part of narcolepsy. And if you actually REM for more than 2 or 3 hours a night, that's often seen in depression. So it really is this sweet spot. So the 0.5, I feel like, gets you in the best brain healthy zone. But there are 2 different impacts that I want to make sure I tell you all about so you're as informed as possible. Some people have shown that melatonin can have a mild antihypertensive effect. So a meta-analysis reported that when people used melatonin regularly, their blood pressure fell by about 6 points. So the concern there would be for what we call syncope. So getting up, especially after you've been laying flat, so first thing in the morning, dizziness, and then falls. So if that is you and you're worried about blood pressure, what you really want to do is take your time getting up out of bed and monitor your blood pressure as you're using melatonin. The other one is there has been some concern that melatonin and the blood thinner warfarin, particularly in older adults, may result in increased bleeding. So like all the things that I talk about here, you, I hope, understand this is not personal medical advice. You need to go to your personal doctor and tell them what you're doing. So this is a prescription from another doctor. This is a supplement from somewhere online. Talking to your pharmacist is a really great idea, because interaction effects sometimes aren't known because it's such a personal question in terms of what you take. What is your personal regimen of not just prescriptions, but remember to list all over-the-counter medications. So remember, my bottom line is always to do things in a healthy, whole foods, balanced way, but there are times where dietary supplements can help to make up for nutritional deficiencies, and we always want to make sure that we are empowering ourselves when working with a medical provider in real life. It's good to get these kind of tips from me on YouTube and Facebook, but really to make this something that you do in your everyday life, you need to bring it back to your PA, your nurse, or your physician. So the 5th product is not something that you can buy through me, but this is how to increase melatonin naturally with plant-based foods. So before you go to bed, I'd say about 2 to 2.5 hours, you can try to consume some of these foods and see if it helps you fall asleep. So I want you to always try to choose organic, always try to choose local when you can. So some of these might be surprising to you. So what I did is I went through the list of the foods and I just took out some that were the strongest. So tomato, strawberry, olive oil, black pepper, coriander, black mustard, almond, cherry, pomegranate, fennel, white radish, and you might be very happy for this last one, beer. So what I would love to know is, what is your experience with any of these interventions that I'm mentioning? Please go to www.icfyb.com/picks picks. And a portion of your purchase will go to support the Neurological Alliance in the UK. This is the collective voice of 80 different organizations that do incredible advocacy work that we respect very much. And their goal is greater access to brain health experts and using more of a person-centered approach, not medicalizing everything that happens in the brain. And remember, there's a human being behind every single experience. And we also need to keep the lights on here because we want to keep offering you free science-based information, lectures, so you can be your very best advocate. Future themed product recommendations, they're going to come out about once a month. I think the next one I'm going to do is books. Then I'm thinking self-care, brain healthy snacks, stroke recovery, things for overstimulation, visually, auditory, since so many people seem to live through that. If there's a category of products you would like me to review, please let me know. I'd be happy to add it to the list. And thanks so much for being here with me. Please leave me a comment in below the little box there and just let me know what you liked about this, what you got out of it, what changes you might be making. And remember, people are reading and they're learning from you too, so you can definitely make someone else's journey a little bit less difficult by sharing your wisdom, because I know you got a lot of it. Take care. Bye.